Welcome to week 6, day 24 of the spring 2025 Web Technologies course. This is Jim Kaufman with Rankin Technical College. So today we're going to go ahead and go over, there's actually 2 Bootstrap hands-on tests. And generally, for these hands-on tests, I generally made them do, like Wednesday evening. It'll be available starting Monday morning, and they're due Wednesday evening by midnight. And then, but this week I went ahead, since there's 2 of them, I just added an extra day on it. So they're due Thursday by midnight. If people can get an early start on it, you shouldn't have problems getting it done by quicker than that. Because we do have plenty of other work to complete this week as well, but just kind of wanted to give, especially people who work during the day and that, give them a little extra time if needed, right? So just this week the hands-on test will be due Thursday at midnight. Okay, and then besides, while I'm going through the hands-on test, I'm also going to do a little bit of review. Bootstrap kind of interwoven with the talking about the hands-on test. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and go over chapter 12 of the Murrock's book, which is how to work with tables. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at that hands-on test. Okay, so this is the hot one, the first hands-on test, and creating a website for a fictional business. Let's see, the first thing I wanted to kind of point out here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go through a few things. I'm going to grab a nav bar, and so I do want to talk about making sure that it's medium or larger devices, that it's expanded on medium or larger and collapse on smaller. Just kind of want to review that a little bit. So let me go over here to... So this is the getting started page. Obviously, I've already done this. I know you've already done this multiple times to be able to complete the homework in the labs. But, basically we used number 2. So you used a quick start number 2 here just by copying it, right? And then for the nav bar, we're going to go down here and grab a nav bar component. So I'm just going to grab a basic one. So there's really no reason to, if you want to grab one that has other things in it, that is fine. But I'm just going to grab kind of a basic one here that's similar to the hands-on test. And let's go ahead and so here I'm going to go ahead and just drop that in here. So I have my template, right? I already have my Bootstrap CSS, and then at the end, before my end body tag, I have my JavaScript. So I did want to go over, because that hands-on test mentions, if you've seen it said, make sure that it's expanded for medium or larger, right? So basically how this currently is, that's not going to be the case. So let's kind of go ahead and take a quick look at this. I'm going to open this with Live Server. Here, actually, let me get rid of the disabled one here. We don't need that. So obviously, in here, you're going to go ahead and name these links like it says in the hands-on test and everything, right? So I'm going to open this in Live Server. So here's your nav bar. So kind of did want to mention here about the breakpoints, right? So if we look over here on the left-hand side, it says nav bar expand large, right? And if we go here, expand this, and I'm just going to hit F12 for developer tools, right? So if we go to breakpoints real quick here, so we see that medium is going to be 768 or larger, right? Greater than 768, greater or equal to 768. If we go here and we go to 768, let's just kind of drag this a little bit, it's quicker. So we go past 768, all right? We're going past it right about now. It's still collapsed, right? So that's not really what the hot ass fart at. It wants it, when it reaches medium, it wants it to expand, right? So, you know, so make sure when you're doing the hands-on test, especially when you're doing different columns and that, make sure that you really need to look at these dimensions, right? And you need to know what the breakpoints are and what your dimensions are, right? And so, like I said, the hands-on test asks for it to expand when it's greater than or equal to 768, right? So if we go back to our code here, So if we just change this, I'm kind of helping you a little more than I really should here, but that's okay. So I changed this to medium now, okay? Now if we come back over here and look at this, and well, automatically it probably did it there. So we go up here and we get the 768, right? Right now it's still collapsed. When we get to 768, it just right there, we went past 768 and then expanded, okay? So just make sure, you know, and this isn't just for this situation, but anytime you're dealing with your screen sizes, you know, make sure you kind of use this developer tools to make sure that, you know, it's the correct dimensions and you're hitting the correct breakpoints, okay? So, okay, that's that. Okay, and then obviously you're going to have a home, products, and team nav bar links to each page, right? So you can have 3 different links, one for home, one for products, one for team. The home page link has the active class. So I did want to go over that a little bit just because if we go back to this. So let's make this smaller. So here you really can't see it very easily, right? But the home is the active one here. And just how Bootstrap does that, right? You know, it's a little bit darker, but you know, you really can't tell it that much, right? So one thing you can do here is you can actually make changes if you like, just to make it look a little better. But let me, do you want to do it like that? So over here, let me see this first one, home. It has active here, right? So they're saying this is active link. But you can't really tell that much, right? So something you can actually do if you would like to. And I'm kind of, this isn't really necessary. You know, as long as you have that active there, you're fine with the hands-on test. But you know, I'm just kind of want to show you a couple other things in addition. So here, actually, what you can do here is we can do the so we have a nav link. Where is it at? So we have our nav link and active. So we can do like this. I'm just going to cut and paste this just to make things a little quicker. And then here you can actually go ahead and do something else to it. So I'm going to actually add like a border below it. Okay. get rid of that stuff. Okay. Actually, I gotta just leave this one that's orange here. So basically, I'm just saying for the nav link that's active, right? For the nav link that's active, go ahead and give me a border on the bottom, okay? And do a solid, and then make the color orange, right? So as you see here, now that it has this little orange under here, right? So you can do this on each page. So whenever you're on that page, you know, you can do other things as well. You know, you can do a background, you can do whatever. I kind of like these little underlines. You know, it's really the border at the bottom. And so whatever page you're on, you see that this is the specific page, right? The specific link. So just an idea. You don't have to do this. I was just kind of wanting to point something out. Just make things look a little nicer, a little more professional, I think. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at the next thing here. So that's for the active class. So make sure that you have the active one on each page. Okay, and then we're going to do Jumbotron, which you've already done Jumbotron. I did want to mention, let's go ahead and take a look at that though. Let's go to Jumbotron here. And just to kind of review, view the page source. So we want to look at since the later versions of Bootstrap don't really have specific classes for Jumbotron. So you'd have to create your own little, CSS or whatever, and other kind of utilities that are available within Bootstrap to kind of make that Jumbotron. They used to have a Jumbotron class in previous versions, but they don't anymore. Okay, so here, what I kind of showed you this before, is just to view the source, and that one was custom. So just go in here and look for that. And so here's your custom Jumbotron right here. They had a couple other ones too, if you wanted to use them as well. Okay, here's one for that different background color and so forth. So, but for now, I was just going to go ahead and grab this one. And let's go back to all right. Then in here, I just want to go ahead and drop that back in here. All right, I want to point out a couple things here on this. So, this is idea of this tertiary, and what this means is basically in Bootstrap, tertiary, it refers to a color option that provides an kind of like an even lighter text color compared to the secondary color. It's often used for less prominent text or backgrounds. Okay, so it's just a different look, right, to distinguish it from other parts of your page. Okay. What else do I want to talk about here? Okay, so here we've got that. Let's just take a look at this one. I'm going to open this with Live Server. Here's your custom Jumbotron, right? So on the hands-on test, it also asked for a background image, right? So you're going to need to add a background image. So, and you might have done that. I don't know if you added that on that other assignment. So, so here's just some stuff I already have. And, you do want to kind of make sure, let me save this. Okay, yeah, it would help if I put so yeah, I created this class, right? So I have to put this class on the actual Jumbotron here, don't I? So let's see what we got here. So if I add that class, then I've got this background image, and there that is. And so what I did here is, if you know, it's a smaller image. So if I don't, I think you're fine with that. No repeat. If you don't do cover though, yeah. So you know, you need to make sure that you do this correctly, right? So you need to make sure you do like background size cover and then do no repeat. It depends on what kind of image you have. Maybe there's a situation where you do want it to repeat, but in my case, I kind of want to cover the whole area, right? So here's kind of my jumbo background with this image, right? Didn't want to do that. All right. Did I want to look at next here on this? Okay, background, text shadow. So yeah, I did want to go over this a little bit. So if you notice about text shadows and Bootstrap, let's get rid of Jumbotron. Let's get rid of that. So let's search for shadows here, I think. So, and this is under utilities, shadows. So one thing that's kind of maybe, you know, a little different, you know, we did do CSS shadows before, right? And so you have these shadows, right, in Bootstrap, but these shadows in Bootstrap are it's primarily designed for adding shadows to elements such as boxes, divs, and stuff like that, right? And as you can see, it's a little different than actually adding shadows to text, right? So keep that in mind. And I think from my perspective on here, this is kind of asking you to use text shadow to add text, to make the text in the Jumbotron more readable. So actually, I'm already just going to add this right now. I think I'm just going to add CSS. Oh, sorry, what am I doing there? Okay. So I think it's best to use CSS to make it like that instead of the Bootstrap one, right? So, and you know, we've already kind of done this before, right? So basically here on the and here we're just going to go ahead and add some more styles for that, right? So yeah, I have this I made this Jumbotron shadow, and this is just a text shadow, right? So this is just regular, even though this is using the same words as the, you know, this is the class that's created within Bootstrap, right? This is what they call it, but this is also the text shadow that's used in CSS. So, you know, it can be a little confusing. And that's why actually probably best to actually create your own. So I'm just calling this Jumbotron shadow here. And then if we kind of go down here to, where do we want to do this at? So if, you know, we want to put this on this text of this, depends on where you want to put this, right? So I'm just going to add that class right there. And so as you can see, there's a little bit of a shadow here, okay? But, you know, like I was saying, if you just use the Bootstrap utilities for shadow, it's really more for the box or divs. It's pretty much a block level, or, you know, it's a little different. It'll just add a little shadow to the whole sections where it doesn't really give shadow to text. In this case, we're using just regular base CSS, your basic CSS, to add a little shadow, okay? Okay, so add and shadow bootstrap, padding and margin, just to add a little bit of padding and margin, which you remember how to do that, I'm sure, using your, we'll just look at the example there, and I did want to point out about making sure that you remember so remember, like padding, this is padding, this would be all the way around, top, bottom, left, right, then this is margin bottom, right? In this case, and this is for that Jumbotron. You can change it however you want, but just kind of wanted to mention that again. So as far as our display here, I do want to, just as a quick review. So if I go to F12, click F12 again, and I'm going to inspect this. So just as a quick review, because sometimes we forget, back in, I think, Chapter 5, we did the box model. So just remember, you've got your content, then your padding's outside your content, right? And then your borders outside of the padding, and then the margins at the very exterior, right? That encases everything else. So margins outside the border, padding's within the border. So just want to kind of review that real quick. Okay, use the correct semantic tags, divs, okay. Include 3 sections about the company. This could be whatever you choose. So obviously look at your, look at this mock-up, try to follow that as much as possible. Did want to point out, we talk about columns. So in this case, it's saying columns must be 1/3 of the container, right? So if you're going to be, so 1/3 of the container with large screens and 100% of the container with on smaller screens. So basically this is saying a third on larger screens and anything smaller, right? So basically you can, you need to make sure that on your larger screens that you change your width, right? And remember, like a third is 1/3 of what? A third of your Bootstrap column. So, well, Bootstrap has 12, right? So 1/3 is going to be 4, 4, 4, right? Not, because that can be a little bit confusing sometimes, right? A third, because it's 1/3 of 12. So 1/3 of 12 is 4, right? Keep that in mind. 1/3 would be 4. A quarter would be 3. If it's a half, that would be 6, right? It's based on 12. So, all right. And then the footer contains copyright lines such as, okay, so you're just doing a footer down here. You can use the Bootstrap text utilities. So those text utilities helps with centering things. Remember, you can align things with the text utilities. And then you also have Bootstrap color utilities. I know I mentioned a while back ago I was going to kind of show you a little bit about CS, because you're going to change those. For the most part, I think we should try to stick with the primary colors that Bootstrap has. When you really get into Bootstrap, long term, it's best to kind of change other colors. I didn't want to get things too complicated for everybody with changing colors. So I kind of held off on the CSS color changes for Bootstrap, because there's really a certain way you need to do it, and it's not as straightforward it really should be. And you can always add another color to anything with just by adding a color in CSS, and you can color anything, any color you want, right? But usually if you really want to stick with the Bootstrap framework, there's kind of a certain way to do it, just to be consistent. And, I just really didn't want to cause confusion. So I kind of wanted to, I think I originally said I was going to show you that, but I think we're going to skip over that and just use the primary colors. as much as possible. If you really want to change the color, that's fine. But just, you just do that regular CSS to do that. But I wouldn't do that too much, just here and there if needed. All right, products page, a header, it's the same. Okay, so like we did for the active class for the home page, you're going to basically do the same thing. And you can cut and paste the nav bar into each page. Now I wanted to let you know, when you really start when you get into programming and really get into some other kinds of frameworks and stuff, and sometimes you got multiple frameworks you're using with, Bootstrap, and then there's other frameworks as well, kind of like you maybe heard of a React, and there's other ones as well that you can use together, right? And so, here for most of this course is about creating static web pages. We're not doing a lot of dynamic stuff, using like dynamic languages, computer languages, to be able to do a lot of dynamic type stuff, right? But when in the real world, what's going to happen is you're not going to do a lot of cut and pasting like a nav bar into different files, right? You actually create kind of more of a template, and then you put those pieces, you use those different templates, you put those together to create a page. And you can also, I know that the people who've already been in the C# course know about how when we did the WinForms type stuff, we'd pass a parameter from one WinForm to another WinForm, and the same thing kind of applies here. And obviously the things we're doing now, we won't be able to do that. But when you use other frameworks, you'll be able to pass parameters so that it'll automatically take care of some of these things, like this active thing. You would automatically do that, okay? But for our purposes here, we're just going to have to cut and paste these nav bars into each file, okay? So this is just showing another Jumbotron on this one. And I'm going to change this to CSS here as well, because CSS is going to refer more to the text itself than the boxes, so to speak. All right, include information about 4 products. So once again, this layout must show 4 items per row at the large screen size. Why don't you just, let's not say the largest, at the, let's say at large, because there's the extra large, right? We have different breakpoints. We have extra large, we just say large or greater instead of extra large. Well, we just change that here. Row at the, show 4 items per row. For all right. All right, you can pick your actual breakpoints to fit your content. All right, but use column classes to implement this. Okay, and the whole thing is, make sure you're looking at like how we use the developer tools, and we can see at the different breakpoints how the screen changes. Try to spend some time learning how to do that if you haven't already been using that. Okay, spend a little time on that. And though we've already did cards before, I know that, so probably don't need to. Did want to point out something on this one here. So here it kind of shows you, and you can do it either way. It shows this is a card with an image up top, and then you've got a title and a description. This kind of has it maybe in different, separated out. Has the name here, and then has a link. So you can do it that way, or you can make this In this case, it actually made the product the link, and so that's fine as well if you just want to make the product the link. Okay, either way on that. Let's see here. I want to go ahead and show you. So for these images, you can come up with whatever you want to come up with. And there's also this. You're doing products here, and on this team page, you're doing employees. So you can. Here's one site that you could possibly use. So here's some person placeholder images. So you can just kind of grab these, and then just make all you have to do is right click and save image as. And these are mostly free, I think. So you can just do this. Sometimes they get saved as an AVIF file, okay, a little different format, but they'll still work, okay. But here's, so this is just one page of, let's see how many, page 1 of 100, so, that's quite a few there to choose from. So, just one option, and this is the person placeholder. You could do a product as well. And here's some different products. Not saying you have to use this. If you want get your images somewhere else, you have a different resource you use, that's fine. Just kind of want to point this out. So you could use something like this as well. I'll go ahead and supply this link to you. I'll send this link to you. All right. Where are we at here? Okay, so the product stuff, I think we're good with that for the most part. And try to follow this as much as possible. But you kind of want to use real images here, or at least those, not just a border or anything. You actually want to put some images in there, and then kind of doing a little bit of redundant task here, all right? So here you're creating a Bootstrap grid. 2 items per row for the largest screen size. So large or greater. What did I say up here? I think I said large or greater screen size. Okay. Pretty basic here. I don't see anything being too much of a problem. All right. I think we've covered most of what you need for this. This shouldn't be too bad for you. Let's go ahead and get rid of that one. Let's look at number 2 here. So there's a few things that are kind of a little different that you might have not have done already. So first one is obviously a Bootstrap grid system. Create a row with 5 columns. Okay. These columns should be placed evenly on the main axis. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go to our layout. I'm just going to grab this one real quick. And down here. So in this case, you're going to want to do 5 of these, right? We got 3, 4, 5. What do I want to mention on this? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what does this mention here? Oh, okay. Sorry, let's look at, so this does say here, each row should be spaced evenly on the main axis. On medium size and up screens, smaller screens should have a single column per row. Okay. So kind of this is actually kind of saying a little bit of two different things, right? Well, one thing is you're going to want to make sure that you have your column set for small screens and medium-sized screens, right? But also it's this spaced evenly on the main axis, right? So this is, this is thinking Flexbox, right? So if we go back to our code here, go back to our code, and on here on our div class, so we have container. What we can do here is put another div here. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this all in another div here, and then where were we? And then what I'm wanting to do here in this div, so I'm going to do a class. So I type, right? So here I'm going to do, actually, I'm sorry. Let's not do that like that. I apologize. Let me get rid of this. Let's just do this on the row. So on this row, I'm going to go ahead and do deflex. Okay. So this is basically Flexbox, and then I'm going to do a justify content around, because I believe that's what it asked for. Spaced evenly on the main axis. Was this actually a different one? No, I don't think so. So I'm going to do justify content around, align items, center. Let's see what that looks like. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you don't do it like this, let's just see. If I get rid of that and save it, it's probably... Let's go ahead and put that back. It should be different, right? No. Well, it's because I did space around. If I do space between, that'll make it a little different on it. So you can play with that, okay? But that's what kind of this is saying here, is spaced evenly on the main axis, right? So you're basically using Flexbox there. In the first column, doing a Bootstrap accordion. So here's accordions. You can basically do whatever you want here. You're just going to go ahead and put an accordion in one of the columns. And then we're going to do what's called a list group as well. Okay. And a list group is like this. You have an item, second item, third item, fourth item, you get multiple items. Okay. And then each list item should contain a badge. So you're actually going to put a badge within each item. Okay. And so let me show you something else here. I have this example. Is this the one I want? So this is kind of just a hodgepodge of different things I was kind of playing with. So this, this is very similar to what this is asking you to do here. But, in the first column, go ahead and put an accordion, right? Second one is a list of items, okay? And this list of items also has badges, okay? So you got item 1, item 2, item 3. Probably should actually, name it something a little better than that, but different items here, okay? So let's go ahead and look at the code for that. So in this case, we're looking at list items. So here I've got a list group, all right? And then within this list group, I have list items. And then within each list item, I've got a badge, okay? And you signify badge just by using badge. Obviously, you can go ahead and grab that little template code for each badge if you want, but that's a badge. And then also, let's go ahead and get rid of this. They have, Bootstrap has this idea of a pill, which kind of shaped like a pill. You can see it on the right side there, where the 14, 22, and 14 is there, right? It's shaped like a pill. As you can see, though, if I get rid of this, this will just kind of make this a little bit of a rounded square, right? So you have different options here, okay? You can look into that a little bit. But this is called a rounded pill. And this is kind of a popular one for some reason. So that's a rounded pill, all right? You can do what you want on that. But this is a badge that you're putting, and you can use a span tag for this. And you do want to kind of use maybe an inline type tag, right? And spans an inline tag. So you're just going to be inline into your different item sections here, right? All right, so that's that. Let me get rid of these. Too much stuff. Okay. And then from there, in the third column, a responsive image. I do want to talk about that a little bit. So for a responsive image, the way to make a image responsive is by using this image fluid, okay? So if I get rid of this image fluid here, I'll just save this. Let's look at it first again before I get rid of it. So you can see it's just really taken up. It's going to take up, what it does is it's going to take up what size of screen you have available, right? And so like, see, when I'm making this a little bit smaller, when this gets a little smaller, that page, that image is going to be smaller, right? But in reality, this image is quite a big image. It's actually 600 by 200, okay? So if I just open this image in a new tab, it's over here, you can see this image is much bigger than that, right? It's much bigger. But by using Fluid, it's actually going to, adjust it based on the size of the screen. And then also it matters if you're having some constraint around it because it's within a column as well, right? So that's going to make a difference too, right? It's going to change it based on the screen size, but also it's going to adjust it based on the available space, like within this column here, right? Now, if I get rid of this image fluid, Let's get rid of this and hit save. As you can see, it's going to bleed over, right? It's bleeding over, it's taking up all that space, and it's just pushing everything else out of the way, right? So, you know, it goes beyond, it's going to basically put the full-size image there, and if anything's in its way, it's just going to bleed all over, right? So that's how you kind of contain an image, especially if it's a larger image or, you know, any size image, but you want to contain it within the bounds of a column and you know, based on screen size as well, right? So it'll grow based on a bigger screen and it'll shrink based on a smaller screen. All right. Yeah, I also want to point out, so there's also this, it's always good, obviously, to use, you know, if you want things to look nice, obviously it's best to use your own pics and stuff like that. Sometimes when you're creating screens, sometimes you know, you really want images a certain size maybe for layout and that, just to get everything situated first and then worry about getting your images to fit within the area that you want it to fit in, right? So one thing you can kind of do is you can use something that's called, there's this site here, it's called placehold.co. And so what you can do here is you can create an image here. So I'm just going to actually click on that. And you can copy this URL, and this is going to be 600 by 400. If you want it, if you want something that's a different size than that, let's say I want it 200 by 100, you can put it right in there like that, all right? And so you can see what it, and you cut and paste this, and even in your code yourself, right? So, but you can cut and paste this, copy this, and just drop this in your code, right? If you want an image, you know, placeholder image a certain size. So, you know, there's some benefit in doing that, right? So here, this one's 600 by 200. You can actually even change it right here as well. You can do a 400 by 200, right? And so in this case, this is 6. I'm going to change this to 2. 400. Oh, it helps if I hit the right keys. So it changed this to 400 by 200, right? If you looked at it, you could tell it's constraining it, but it will get that image, right? And then also you can also add, you know, you can change the colors to it as well, right? And so if we go back to that, now you don't have to use this. I'm just pointing out something. So what I did here is I used this one here. It has a certain color. You can change your colors and everything else, right? So, and this, you know, the black and white, basically white for the text, black for the placeholder image itself, right? And you can change, you can use different colors that you want. You just use the hex colors scheme, right? You don't put the pound sign though, the hash sign. You just use the numbers itself, right? So just kind of want to point that out. If you know, if that's a benefit, it's gonna be really helpful when you're trying to get a screen laid out and you want images a certain size, and then later on you can come back and put your own images. But you know, it helps with the initial layout sometimes than just dropping images and on your page and that, right? Or not knowing what images you want to put, all right? So it's something that you can do later on, right? And especially for if you're just building a demo or something, you know, something quick and easy just to showcase, you know, a layout, right? All right, so that's that. So next thing is this modal. And so we looked at the responsive image, and here's a modal. And I don't know why that happened. You know, you basically cut and paste whatever modal you want to use and put that in there. But that's something different we haven't done already. And a modal is basically, so here's the button. You click on the button and here's your modal. It's a pop-up screen, right? So it could be used for many different reasons. Sometimes actually it can be used, for a lot of the stuff we're doing, because we're going to be doing a lot of, like I said, we're not doing a lot of dynamic web pages where we're updating content, saving content. But sometimes you might have something where something pop open, you change some data here, you hit save changes and close it, right? But it could be just for information purposes. It could be some information that you want to display, and then you click the button, it displays, and then you just close it. You don't have to have the save changes. You can customize this just to be closed. There might be some information stuff that comes up, and then you just hit close to close it, and obviously the X will also close it as well, right? So that is a modal. The next thing I wanted to bring up is about the heading element. So let's see. Okay, well, I didn't bring up a carousel. So you need to do a carousel as well. Yeah. So this is, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead here a little too quickly. So yeah, this is actually, kind of a separate, this is a separate page. You could do it farther down on your page, right? This part here is all that grid, right? Your 5 columns, here's your 5 columns. And then after that, farther down on your page, you can create your image carousel with the controls and indicators and etc. Okay. So I did want to pick up this 5th column here is style text for span as a heading element. Okay. I did want to bring something up on this. I want to go over something with this. So let's go to headings here. We should be able to just go to headings. So, we've obviously in the HTML, in the HTML chapters and stuff, we learned how to use headings and stuff like that. So, these basic headings, right? One thing that kind of concerns me here is, where'd they do this at? So this here, one thing I don't like about this, and I just kind of want to bring this up, and see if you kind of agree. So, the HTML headings, heading 1 through heading 6, there were obviously semantic tags, they mean something, and they're also used by assistive technologies like screen readers and that. So when the screen reader comes across like an H1 tag, it knows this is a main title, right? This is H1 tag. This is like the top title, this is the main title of the page. But with Bootstrap, those assistive readers, they're not going to be reading all this different Bootstrap stuff. They don't necessarily, they stick to HTML elements and things like that. They're not necessarily going to pick up on Bootstrap related stuff and other things that you customized, right? It's really going to stick with the basic type, tags and things like that, right? So I did want to bring up something about this, though. Let me show you why I wanted to bring this up. So if I go down here, I'm going to go down to my bottom of my page here and just drop this in here. And let's just take a look at those headings. So we go down here, we got display 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is fine. Right? So this is actually the H1 tag, right? Display 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And kind of my concern about this is that it's easy for someone to do something they probably really shouldn't do. And is like if you want to go ahead and do this, so that's H1. Well, it's using H1 for all of that. So should you really be doing that? And actually you could do something like, you can change the different tags to be a different thing. So H5, we know H1 is the biggest, right? So let's just do H6 here and H6 here. Let's get rid of all of these in between here. So what you're doing here is you're taking the H6 tag, which is the smallest one, and you're making that the biggest one, right? You're making that the biggest one, and then you're taking the biggest tag, which is the H1 tag, and making that the smallest tag. And it's, I don't know if that's best, and I just kind of wanted to point that out to you. So I'd be careful using these. It's fine on span tags, like if you're doing span tags. If you want to use different headings on span tags, like it shows up here, farther up. That's fine, but I'd be careful. Here you're using that H1, here's a P tag. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. Yeah, I just would not do this. I wouldn't do these. I wouldn't take an H1 tag and change the size of an H1 tag like that. It's fine to do a P tag or using a span tag as well. It doesn't show a span tag there. But I'd be careful doing that. I just don't think that's best. So what did I do for that? So I just used a span tag and did a display 6. And that is up here, this display. Okay. Obviously, you can make this bigger, smaller, all right? What else? So we went through that. Okay, so yeah, I didn't put a carousel on that page. You've already used cards, so they're asking you to put a custom card of food of your choice. So you've done carousels, you've done cards before. Did want to go through this icon grid. And, this is just a grid. You're just using the same, you're using a container with a grid, right? Just like what you've done already for layout. But this is an idea of, this is an example showing a icon grid where you have a grid of icons. And so there are these Bootstrap icons that are available. Now there's different, you can get icons from different sources. But I'll show you, I don't know why that won't refresh there, but that's okay. So Bootstrap has these icons, right? And so pages and pages of icons, right? So what you can do here is, and I'll show you how to use these, the easiest way to use these. Let's say, I don't even say easiest, I guess you could download them in that without having to download the image, right? So here you got this bank image. I'm going to click on that. So what you can do is you can actually copy this, okay? You can actually take this and copy this. But first what we'll have to do before we do that, and let me go back one more page. We go all the way down to the bottom of this page. There's this CDN, right? Just like we did the CDN for the Bootstrap CSS file and JavaScript file, we can also do a CDN for these icons. So you can just go ahead and take and copy this, right? And then I already did this on this example I'm looking for. So you basically copy that, and then you paste it right in here. Just like you did, it's just another style, it's another style sheet. You just save it right there like that, right? So you copy that, save that there, right? And then what you can do, and what I did is I created that different. So I did, here's my little icons, that grid. So basically, here's the different ones I grabbed. I grabbed different ones. I'm grabbing this, I copied the different tags, right, for each one. And I just dropped them in there, and that's what you're viewing on there. If you go to here, here's your different icons that I grabbed, okay? But back to this. So if we had, okay. So first you want to go ahead and grab the CDN and drop that on your file, okay? Then after you do that, you can go ahead and click on any of these, all right? On any of these, click on these. Then just copy this, and you can just drop this right in your code. And in my situation here, I just created divs and, you know, put a border around it and so forth, okay? And then I just dropped it right within that div, all right? So that's how you do that. All right. And I showed you the people placeholders. You don't have to do that. That's just an idea. You can put other photos of other images of people in there. This was for that team part, I think. It had teams. That was kind of like the first one, wasn't it? The first hot. And then here we got a login. So one thing that we haven't really, another thing we haven't touched upon was forms. Okay, let me get rid of this. Get placeholders. All right, and then we've got this. So went through that. Okay, that was the icons. Oh no, it's just showing you. Okay, so we did the grid. That's a grid of icons, and then we got this web form. So we open up this. Now, as far as forms from an HTML perspective, we haven't addressed those yet. We actually will be later this week. That's chapter 13, will be forms. But for this one, it's asking you to go ahead and create a form. Let's say create a page with a web form for a user to sign in. Okay. So basically go to the forms and come down here and find a form. It pretty much has like a, let's see which one we have here. Usually like a, email and password. There's an example form. So here's a password. Let's just ask for a password. Read only. Oh, so you can, this one probably, you know, might be the best one. So you got an email and a password here. So you can grab one of those. Okay. And basically copy those, drop those in your code. And what did I do on mine? So here's my form. What I think I did too here is just to, let's see what I did. I dropped this within a div tag. A div tag's around the form. So I've got the div tag around the form, and I'm actually kind of aligning this so it's in the center of the page. So I'm aligning this in the center of the page, put a little spacing. on it as well. So you can play with that yourself. So mine, I just put mine in the center of the screen instead of being over on the left-hand side. Okay. You can play with that. We're not really doing much here, but this is basically a form. And we'll be working on forms. We're gonna go over forms tomorrow, as far as from an HTML perspective. But most of the stuff we do with the form stuff too, we want to kind of look how it's done in HTML. But Bootstrap adds a lot of functionality that's really nice as well, right? Makes them look a lot nicer. So we're gonna be doing that as well. So I guess that's all I have here on the hands-on test. And like I said, you'll have until Thursday at midnight for the hands-on test, the 2 hands-on tests. So you can go ahead and, please try to get that done earlier than that if possible. Because like I said, there's a good amount of other work to do as well. But I don't think this will be too bad for you, because all those templates make things a lot easier, right? So let's go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break, and then I'll come back and we'll go over HTML tables. So here's an example of an HTML table. I create this little grocery list table. And we'll go through this. I kind of wanted to first just start out to point out that tables are about tabular data. It's about, kind of looking like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. It's all about having data, right? Now, back in the earlier days of the internet, before cascading style sheets and before Bootstrap and these other frameworks and the cascading style sheets wasn't advanced as it is now. Positioning elements on a page, just let's say content on a page, if you wanted 3 columns on a page, a lot of times what developers would do, even though tables weren't really meant for this, tables were designed for tabular data, right? But back in the earlier days of the internet, when there wasn't a lot of options there for laying out a page, they'd actually use tables to lay out data. So, that's one thing about tables. Tables probably isn't, back some years ago, spending a lot of time on tables probably be really beneficial because that's how you got a lot of people laid out pages, especially very early on. But, with the advancements in CSS and also these different frameworks, there's other options for laying out your content on your page. So tables, basically are used for what they really were designed to use, and that's to display tabular data. Okay, and we'll go through this page more here as we go forward. So like I said, early days of the internet, tables for layout, because of limited CSS, lack of tools and so forth, developers would actually use tables to structure their content on their pages, right? And the problems with using that is the semantic misuse. Tables are meant to displaying tabular data, information in rows and columns with relationships. These are data type relationships, right? Using them for layout was a semantic misuse of HTML element. And then also, as far as accessibility issues, screen readers and assistive technologies interpret tables as data tables. Using them for layout could confuse these tools and make websites less accessible. And then there's also problems with search engine optimization and maintenance and complex table structures sometimes slow down page loading as well. Okay. So CSS has evolved dramatically now. Incredibly powerful controlling website layouts. We could use floats. We didn't really do anything with floats. Kind of told you not to use floats, especially with Bootstrap and stuff. You don't have to worry about floats. Flexbox, CSS grid, and you can do different positioning, relative, absolute, and fixed for laying it out, right? So the current use for HTML tables are, essential if correctly used for displaying tabular data. If you have data that's logically belongs in a table, like spreadsheets, schedules, comparison charts, doesn't necessarily have to be data, but it could be just something that there's some kind of relationship between all these things, right? Just not, like I said, we used to use for layout to drop paragraphs of content in tables just to make it easier to lay out something on a web page, right? But you really want to use it for things that have some relationship, right? So there's different tags, right? The main tag is a table tag. Then a tag is a table row tag. TH is table heading. TD is table data. Okay, and we're going to go into that a little more here. HTML tables are used significantly less for website layout. Yeah, I already said all this. So table row, that's the TR. So your main tag is your table tag, and it's kind of like the same thing as you would in a regular HTML document. You got your beginning body tag and you have your end body tag, right? And you put your tables obviously within your body of your HTML document, but you enclose the begin table tag with an end table tag, and then you have your table headings, your table rows, your table data, all within that, right? All within your table tag. Okay, and so there's a table row and there's a table column, right? A column is a vertical line of cells within a table that runs vertically down the table rows, right? So if we looked back at our original image here, our original table, so here's your column, which is your grocery item all the way down, right? Then your price is a column all the way down, quantities a column, and total cost is a column. Okay. So always they're going to be, your relationship, right? This is an item name. This is a name. So this is all in this column. Here's your price in this column. Your quantity, right? A numeric, right? And then here's for cost and price. You've got currency, right? So you have that. One thing I do mention, since we're kind of looking at this here, so this is a heading to your table, right? This is a column heading. This is a table heading up here. And then here's your different rows and columns. One thing I did kind of want to mention is and I'm sure I'll mention this again here later, but for something that's alphanumeric, right? So it's best to align these to the left-hand side, right? For currency and numbers, either way on currency. As far as numbers itself, I can see you using it, aligning it in different ways. But currency is always important to align it so that the decimal places all line up correctly, right? So did want to point that out, especially when you're using currency in a table. So back here, so columns are vertical structures. Although HTML doesn't have a direct column tag, it doesn't have a column tag, right? And we'll take a look at how that actually works as far as how does that all put those in the same column. Okay, it doesn't have a column tag though. Okay. Header cells, or TH, are often used to define the headings for each column, clarifying the type of data presented in that vertical stack of cells. Okay. A cell is a basic unit of an HTML table, representing the intersection of a row and a column. Okay. So back at our grocery list, These are all cells. Okay, these are all cells within this column, right? Within this row. This is a separate row, and this is the intersection. This is a column, right? And this is a row across. And the intersection of a column and a row is a table data, a table cell, right? Also called a TD tag. A TD tag is also your data cell, right? So it's basically saying there's two different kinds of cells. There's header cells, and we've seen that. That was where we had the names of the columns. That was the header cell. And then we have data cells, okay? Data cells are TD tags, right? A header cell is going to be a TH tag. A header tag is going to be a TH tag. And a data cell is going to be a TD tag. TR tag or table rows, right? So here, a header cell is a special type of data table cell that identifies or labels the data in a column or row. Header cells are crucial to making tables accessible and understandable. Header cells are created using the TH table header element. TH tags are typically used within the first row of a table or potentially the first cell of each row for a row headers. Because sometimes I don't have row headers on mine. I just have, on this table that I showed you, we just have column headers. We don't have row headers, right? But you could have headers on both sides, right? Or on the top and then on the side as well, right? And then there's also headers, footers, and body tags, okay? These terms refer to semantic sections that can be used to structure rows of an HTML table. T-head for a header tag. Section contains the header rows of a table. Typically use the TH header cells that define our column headings. We'll take a look at the code here in a minute. And then we have a T-foot tag. It's the footer section, often used for summaries, totals, or footnotes. And then you have T-body tag, which is the main section containing the primary data rows of your table. Okay. Grouping rows into T-head, T-foot, and T-body. It's not just for visual presentation. It also adds semantic structure to your table. While you can create tables without these elements, using them provides several benefits. Improve CSS styling, semantic meaning, logical structure. Fix header footer. So you can potentially fix a header. Let's say you have a table that multiple pages long. You can actually fix that header so that you, as you scroll down, that header stays fixed. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and look at some of the code for that. So this is the code for that grocery list, right? And so we have a table. Remember, the table tag is always going to be a begin and end tag for the table, right? Everything's in between. And in this case, we're using what's called a caption. And the caption is the grocery list, okay? And then we have a T-head table. And this is that top head, that heading. All right, let's go ahead and pull that up here on the right-hand side. Probably be best. And then that grocery list. So here's our grocery list. Our T-head table is this top portion. So this could potentially be two rows. You know, it wouldn't necessarily only be one row. You know, it could be two rows. It could be more complex, but this is just basically one table row within the T-head section that has a grocery item, a price, a quantity, and a total cost. And that is the complete T-head part of this. And then we have the T-body, right? And the T body is the rest of basically the bulk of the table, right? Now, I did want to kind of mention, since we're at this point here, so you've got, which is kind of interesting, is actually your column here, your grocery item column. So this here, right, is associated with the first TD here, and the first TD here, right? It's the first one in the list. So your grocery items associated with the apples, the bread, the milk, the eggs, etc., all the way down this list. Okay? The price and the table heading here is associated with the second one all the way down the list, all the way down this whole table, right? All the way down the page. The third one is quantity, and that's associated with the table with the TD tag is the third one all the way down. All right? And the same for total cost. Okay? And then we go all the way down to the bottom here, and we have a T foot. All right? This is our footer table. This is at the very bottom. And so we're doing something a little different here on this one. We're doing a column span. So we want this thing to go spread. We got a name here, so we just got two pieces of data, right? And so this is kind of our totals, you know, and so we have a sales tax, and the sales tax is here. Obviously, this isn't actually, this isn't adding this all up. I've done this myself. I don't even know how accurate this is, but I think it is pretty close. But you know, there's ways to do this when with JavaScript and other programming languages, right? You can add things up, but from just a basic HTML perspective, it's not really going to add that up, right? This is just hard coded in here, right? So back to here, this is a column span of 3 for both sales tax and total price. As you can see, it extends 3 columns. And then the second one is just going to take up the remaining space, which is just 1, right? So that's how you can go ahead and do something like that, okay? And that's your T-foot tag, right? That's your footer, T-footer, table foot tag, table footer tag. So the next thing, I guess I'll show, let's see what styles I have for this. A lot of different size styles. Yeah, you know, one thing I guess I can, which is, this isn't really about doing tables, but this is a concept of using variables for maybe different colors and stuff like that, right? Where it could kind of make sense, so that if you want to change the color scheme, so I have this color scheme, you could change the color scheme if you're using something in multiple places. Sometimes you're not, sometimes you are. So like here I've got, I'm using it's not actually probably as beneficial as it could be in other areas when you're doing things differently than just tables. When you're using a specific color in different places, instead of having to repeat that tag over and over again, especially if you decide, I want to change my theme, I want to change my palette, right? That you can actually define, kind of like in this case, I'm defining my palette, how I want this all to look up here, right? And then at different places in here, I'm using this variable called var, and then I use the double dash in the name, and this will use that color that's defined up here. So it's a way to define different colors of a palette. And then if you want to go ahead and change it, especially if it's used multiple times, not really doing that a lot here, right? I am doing it once here though. I've got border color in here twice, right? So instead of actually putting that here, I can change it just one place, right? And then it will reflect. So you can always change colors. Let's just, for the heck of it, let's see, this is our heading here, right? So if I want to kind of change this to something else, just real quick, let's make it pretty dark. So I changed the heading, all right? And then so you can actually create your palette, what you want it. And then if you want to change it, you can change it. Just an idea, kind of makes things easier to maintain and so forth. So in here, okay, so here's an important concept that's important to understand, is when you have these rows and columns, you're generally going to have some borders around them and that, right? It's very helpful to be able to display. So, but if you have, generally, a border is going to have a border for each one. It's a border. So if you want it to look like this is fine, right? But each thing's going to have its own top border, bottom border, right? So a way to make this look a little better is you can use what's called border collapse, okay? And that's what I did here. And by collapsing the borders, it's going to, instead of having a top border and a bottom border, and then each one's going to have it, so it's going to kind of look, it's going to be bigger here. It's going to put more space in here because of top border, bottom border, right? So to make this probably look a little nicer, you can go ahead and do border collapse. And so it'll look like that instead. So that's what border collapse does. And then obviously you can give a table a width. So we can change this to 50 or whatever, right? Margin auto to make sure that it's centered, right? So just like anything else we've done with CSS, basically you could use the HTML elements to style. So I'm doing the T head and the T footer tags, right? For the TR tags for the T foot and T head, and they're going to be the same color, right? Making for the T footer tags, the T foot tags, making it bold. So you can see it's bold down here, right? And everything else just basic type stuff. So obviously one thing I did do here on this is, let's see. Yeah, so this is another way. I think we did look at this a little bit. We'll go over this again. But so for the T-body tag, right? So for this is our whole table, right? This is basically excluding the header and the footer. Excluding the header and the footer. T-body tags everything else. And so what we're doing here is, so for every table row, okay, we're doing the nth child 1, right? And what this is going to do is align this left, okay? And this is redundant here, isn't it? That's okay, though. So basically, it's aligning this left, right? Left, left, right. Let me see what else I did here. Text align right. Yeah. Okay, so in this instance, what I did, this might not have been the best way to do this, but So I did a text line right on the table data, right? So you've got, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3 of these rows. I did what's probably, because 3 out of 4 of them, I'm aligning them to the right. So what I did was initially I aligned all of them to the right. Even this grocery list item, these were originally aligned to the right. And let me show you that real quick here. So if I just went ahead and commented out this, which I already said that this is in here twice, so let me just kind of, oh, that's a T-foot. No, it's not. Okay. So here, let me comment that out. Now, if we look at this, so basically what I did here is all of these are aligned to the right-hand side, right? Now, but if I go ahead and do this, and so I'm just saying that the nth child 1, and what this is going to do is going to go for every table row, for the T-body tag, every table row, it's for the first TD tag, right, of every row, right, for every row. It's going to go ahead and make this, it's going to change the text alignment to be left. And so when I save that, it went ahead and moved this to the left-hand side. Okay, and that's how you read this, right? So for the T-body tag, the table row, then it's going to do the table data, which each one of these are TD tags. All of these are TD tags, right? All of these are TD tags. The first one of each row, you're going to align that left. If I change this to a 2, let's see how that changes things. Now, what it did was this TD tag is text lining everything to the right. That after this is aligning everything to the right, it's taking the nth child of the second one and texting that to the left, which was this price. You probably can't see it as well, but it's now on the left, right? So this kind of makes sense. This can make sense to do it this way, especially if you've got multiple. Most of the things you're wanting to align to the right or right or left, and the other one, maybe 1 or 2, you want to do it. Then you can kind of just align everything to one, and then follow that up with something specific. In this case, the first one I'm wanting to align to the left, right? So usually for alphanumeric type stuff, like I said earlier, you want to align it to the left. There may be circumstances you want to do center, but a lot of times, it doesn't make sense really to alphanumeric stuff, since we read the left to right to align it to the right-hand side, right? Obviously, currency is important because of decimal places to align to the right-hand side. Quantities, there could be benefit in either way, but currency is very important, obviously, to align to the right. And then here, what we're doing. So for the T-body tag, for the nth child, we use this even and odd. So we've got an even color and an odd color, right? So the even color is the ones like we're using this variable again. And you don't have to do it this way. If you just want to go ahead and put your color right in here, just like we've done on other things, that's fine. This is just another way to do something like this. And like I said, in this case, probably not using it enough times in this file that it makes as much sense. But, it does make sense if you just want to change your palette and say, okay, and you want to play around with your palette, that your palette's kind of defined all up here. All right. So, so here's the even rows and the odd rows. Okay. And then it's got it also a hover, right? So when you hover on the row, when you hover on the row, it's going to go ahead and change. It's going to go to white, right? Just basic hover. So I think, this shouldn't be too bad to understand for you. I know you got to get used to this nth child thing, right? One thing I did want to point out, because it can be, and I'm going to show you some more advanced ones here, but one thing to realize, and especially, if this is your first course here, especially like programming courses, you haven't taken another programming course. So a lot of different programming courses, like, or programming languages, I should say, like, the C Sharp, which is the one that, some of the students in here have done C Sharp, but if, some students in here also have done other programming languages, have some experience with maybe Python or JavaScript. So a lot of data structures always start at 0 based, right? So your first item is at the 0 position, right? Starts at 0, and then, then you go from there, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But here in the HTML, you need to look at it being kind of 1 based. So like we were doing here when we were changing the text alignment, this is going to be your first. This is not going to be 0 based, all right? It's going to be the first one, right? Just wanted to point that out, and I'm going to actually go into that a little more here when we look some of the more advanced ones. Okay, so here's some examples of more advanced selectors. Let's get rid of this one here, I think. Yeah, let's take a look at this one. So let's see here. So the way I kind of did this is I got a class, table 1, table 2, right? It's just, and then nth of type, nth last of type. Okay, well, we'll go through all of these. So table 1 is, we're going to go ahead and look at table 1 here. So all of these first ones are these first all the way up till line 30. Here's table 1. So I'm saying that, and we just kind of looked at this already. So for our table 1, for each table row, nth child odd, right? So odd's going to be your first one, your third one, and your fifth one in this scenario over here. Maybe I can make this a little bigger. Probably make this a lot bigger. Be easier to see. So for your odd ones, I got a background color of light gray, right? So that's 1, 5, 1, 3, and 5, right? And then here I'm doing the even ones, have a light blue color. So that's 2, 4, and 6. Okay. And here I'm doing another way to do what we've done before is you can use like this 3n. All right. So this is going to say for every third row is bold. Okay. So you've got the first one, the third one. Nope. What did I say? Every third row. First one, third one, sixth one, right? So this is different than if you just use the number 3, it's different, right? Like we were doing for those TD tags, right? In this case, every third, so this is for every third row, make this bold. So you got your first one, your third one, and your sixth one. Here, rows with position. So rows with the position 2n are red. Okay. So let me explain how this works. So for this, the way this works is it kind of does it's kind of a little strange. It kind of like does a little iteration type thing, right? So what it does is it takes and n is going to be 0 the first. Basically, it's going to go through your whole table. All right. In this case, we just got 6 rows, but it's going to go through your whole table. Okay. You know, that could be 100 rows, right? 200 rows. It's going to go through your whole table, right? And then what it's going to do is it's going to start with 0. 0, n is going to be, you know, basically a mathematical formula. So this would be 0 times 3, 3n, which is 3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. So it's going to underline number 1. Okay? Then it's going to go to replace n with 1. So 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Okay? So if we had a lot of different rows here, multiple different rows, it would continue on. So then if we had a whole bunch of different rows, it would be 3 times 2, which would be 6, plus 1 would be 7. Okay? And that's how that works for the underline. This one we did what? I kind of skipped that one though, didn't I? Same thing here, right? So you're going to start with the 2n would be 0. So 0 plus 1 is 1. It's going to make it red. Then it's going to come and put a 1 here for n. 1 times 2 is 2. Plus 1 is 3. Third one is going to be red, right? And then, you know, obviously this is very same as being odd, right? But there might be some scenarios where you're wanting to do it a little differently. But so then here, the row 5 here is going to be what? 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And so the fifth one's going to be red, right? And in this case, this is always going to be the same as odd, right? This is always going to be the same as odd. But this one is not, right? This is going to be this one's going to be different, right? The first one is going to be the first one, because 0 times 3 is 0, so the first one. Second time is going to be 3 times 1, which is 3, plus 1 is 4, would be the fourth one. If you had another one, it'd be 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 would be 7, etc., right? So it's done a little differently. Now this here, that was table 1. Table 2 is, so here we did the nth child, table row nth child. And here we're doing table row last child. So it's going to start at the end of the table. Okay? End of the table. So in this case, so like, we see odd. So, obviously within the first table, the first one would be, if you're using odd, the first one is going to reflect the first one, right? But when you're starting, if you've got one here, you got 6, which is an even number. So this one is going to be the odd. This one is odd, and this one is odd. This is the first one from the bottom, the third one from the bottom, and the fifth one from the bottom, right? So in this case, you're starting from the last child. So this is a light yellow color, right? So you're doing the opposite direction. And then here, what we're doing, we got this italicized. Okay, italic, okay. So this is 3n. Every third row from the end is italicized. So 1, 2, 3. This one's italicized. Then 4, 5, 6, right? Every third one. If we could go, if this is a large table, every third one would be italicized from the end, right? Now here, this is the last child 2n. Same thing here. So table 2 purple. Why is this not working? Oh, it is. You just can't see this purple. I can barely see that purple. So basically the same thing here. Same thing here, I think. Let me see something here. Yeah, maybe I'll just, maybe we should just use that too. See a little better. All right, so here you're basically starting at the end, last child, right? So here is same thing here with the 2n plus 1. First one in is going to be 0. 0 times 2 is 0, plus 1 is 1. It's going to be so it's going to be the last, you're counting backwards. So this one's going to be purple and bold, which it is. Then the next one, you're going to change that number, the n, to a number, 1. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. You're going to count from here, 1, 2, 3, right? So it's purple and bold. Then if we go ahead and add a 2 here, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be purple and bold. Okay? And kind of doing the same thing here for, underlining, right? Just using a different number here, right? So that does look right, doesn't it? 3n plus 1, 0, 1. Oh, overline. I was wondering. Not underline, it's overline, right? So there's an idea of underlining and something and overlining something. This is actually overline. So in this case, it's going to be the first one, right? So the first one here, it has this overline, right? And then the second time you come in here, it's going to be a 3 plus 1 is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this fourth one will have this overline. Okay. I was wondering, I was thinking underline here. No, but it says overline. All right, so let's look at this other data cell. So what we did here was basically child, right? So we're taking children. So for table rows have table datas as their children, right? So it's grabbing the child. So let's just actually look at that. So when we're looking at this, this is a table row has children, right? So this table, table 1, yeah. So it has children, right? I'll look at this last one here. So this one here, this is nth of type. So this is basically saying if, so nth of type is when you want to style elements based on their order from the start. So like every other paragraph or the first 3 headings, right? Then you use this nth of type, okay? And in this case, we're using nth of type odd or nth of type even. So you've got the light coral color for your odd, and you have light cyan for your even. Every third row, the same type. It's not using child, but it's using type. So here, every third row, solid black border. Can't really see that though. All right. Well, we don't necessarily need to. You don't need to necessarily worry about all of these. The other one I did want to kind of just point out, there's other something you might want to use is like a line through, and use a text decoration of line through, so that you can line through different. You may want to line through different cells within your table. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go through tomorrow. I'll go through the assignments for the chapter 12 and chapter 13, which is the forms. But tomorrow we'll go through chapter 13 forms, and as part of that, I'll also go through the assignments for both chapter 12 and chapter 13. So that's all I have for today on tables. If there's anything else you feel you have any questions, you feel like there's something else we need to go over, please let me know. Thanks and have a good day.